And as we get into it, connectivity matters is a conversation that I think, like I'm saying, all of us need to have. And I'm very excited for the conversation we're having. Kind of sums it all up. Head of Operations from Paratus Botswana is here to talk to me about it. He goes by the name Chris Premeji. And it turns out Chris is cooler than all of us in studio because he knows lots of songs that we don't know. And he even knows the remixes of the songs that we don't know. But Chris, a very good evening to you. Welcome to Gabs FM.
Yeah, evening once again, Kathy. Thanks for having me, and evening to the listeners.
I'm excited to have you here, Chris. And I think this conversation, much as it's a very sad one because it's the last one, I think is pretty much, a summary. It wraps it up. So very, very important for the listener. If you've missed all of the shows that we've had, this one will catch you up to speed. And of course, we're going to share details and we'll share links of where you can catch the previous conversations. So, Chris, we've touched on different issues throughout the series. We've looked at things like redundancy, intelligent networks, security, your voice, your managed services. We've looked at things like your backups, your disaster recovery, your SLA, your service level agreements. And we've looked at how all of those actually support your business performance and also just the resilience of the business. And more importantly, the growth and capacitation or scaling up of the business. Now, today I want us to look at some of the common mistakes that people make, especially when we're dealing with connectivity, when we're dealing with technology. And we want to talk about how soon people should start thinking about their telecommunications, especially when we're talking as far down as building the infrastructure of their buildings. So let me just get you to look at some of the biggest mistakes that people make across businesses. And this is when it now comes to your technology as well as your decisions and connectivity, the decision makers. Let's start there.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, it's very important to think about connectivity right from the onset. As soon as you think about the color of the walls in your office, you need to already know what sort of connectivity you need. Mm-hmm. You're going to need to communicate with your clients. You're going to need email services. You're going to need a phone. You're going to need Wi-Fi, all sorts of stuff to get you online and get your business going. So the sooner you can get all that sorted out, especially during, like, if you're constructing a building, for example, you want to get your water and electricity in at the beginning. You also want to get your ducts and cabling done and all that. So by the time you're ready to open your doors, you're not thinking about people coming in to drill and put up radios and poles and all this kind of stuff. You should have sorted that out already.
Yeah. So why is it important for people to be looking at, their telecommunications infrastructure? This is like from the minute a building, or any sort of apartment complex is set up. Why should that be, still in their minds or in their minds already at that point?
It's all about the ease of use. If you take your example of a building or a multi-dwelling unit or MDU, mm-hmm. You're going to have lots of tenants in this building that come in. Maybe they're small businesses or maybe it's a block of apartments. Those people are going to need connectivity at some point. Mm. They're going to come with their provider of choice. Some want fiber, some want radio, whatever. If you can provide some sort of infrastructure from the get-go that is installed in a managed way, you've overseen the quality of the installation, you've made it available to different providers, just a simple way to get your tenants online without them having to pull new cables in your building, rip up the paving and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because we want to avoid such things, right? Yeah. And you want to make it as easy as possible for them to get the connectivity that they need, right? So let's talk about something you just mentioned, Chris, and that is to do with our reticulation, our structured cabling, and provider choice. So how can these assist, or why should they already be in touch with them? I'm talking about the property owners. How can they assist? What are some of the things that property owners should be thinking about or speaking to the providers about these?
Yeah. So as a property owner or a developer, when you're having your building done, you've gone past your planning stage and you're starting construction, you've got all these contractors coming in, putting in your reticulation for power, water, all sorts of services that are needed in the building. That is the time when you need to get a communications partner to come in and assist with prepping the building for any connectivity requirements that may come up when it's complete. So you can have a partner like Paratus do structured cabling throughout the building. Usually you'd have like a central communications room, or maybe more than one, depending on the size of the complex, and have cabling going to each and every unit, so that as your tenants occupy or move in, everything is already in place. The provider can bring in their service to a central point, and you trunk it along or connect them along to their specific unit, and off they go. You can control how the cable reticulation is done. Your provider of choice, you can for the cabling, you manage the quality of the installation. You don't have other providers and contractors running cables and stuff after the fact. Nobody's drilling your walls every 2 minutes.
Okay, I need to pause you there because I realize we're using big words, and so maybe somebody who's not into tech doesn't know what we're talking about.
Yes.
First of all, in fact, I'd like you to share how somebody who's really not into tech, I'm a property development manager and I know nothing, and you're talking about reticulation. I mean, I'm thinking something to do with property when you're talking reticulation. So please explain what exactly you're talking about with that. And then thirdly, this is going to be an expense that I might not necessarily have accounted for in the beginning. So I want you to justify this for me, Chris. Why should I be putting money, especially in the building stages, as opposed to when I have tenants and there's money coming in, and then I want to think about it?
Yes, Kathy, good question. So every single time somebody drills a hole in the wall in your building, it has some sort of an impact.
Yes.
It impacts the structure of the wall. There's potential for water leakage. People put radios on a roof. There's lightning risk and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of costs that you consider at the beginning. If you have ducts in place in the building, you have cabling going from every unit to a central point. When a customer comes in and occupies a unit and they want to connect from Paratus, there's a central point where Paratus brings their connection in. Let's call it your comms room. And then they connect their tenant from there. Provider X comes in and they want to connect somebody in unit 2. They can use the same infrastructure. You've already put the cabling down to every unit. It's also essential to think about having an open access network. So as the developer, you've put the cabling down. The tenant is allowed to choose whichever provider they want, as long as they use the already provided cabling. So no equipment bolted onto the roof, no cables dangling all over your beautiful building. And you've also managed the quality of the installation. So your tenant knows that as soon as they connect into the building infrastructure, their service is going to be quite good.
Okay, so reticulation.
Yeah, so reticulation is basically cabling, right? So if you think of a building like a shopping mall or a complex like a shopping mall, we put in ducts or pipes, let's say, between the units to the central comms room, where you have all this telecoms equipment located, and the cabling within those ducts to each and every unit. When you tie all these things together, that is your reticulation.
Okay. Yeah. So let's now look at a business, an organization, an individual who is starting their connection or they are getting connected for the first time. Let's talk about why that can be sort of lengthy, about 2 weeks, especially if we are looking at fiber installation. Why does it typically take around that time?
So we run back to the lack of reticulation. So you're in this big building, you're in unit 5 in some corner somewhere. Your provider of choice is bringing in fiber from outside. So probably the nearest plant is at street level. So in order to get that cable into you, they're probably going to have to lift some paving. They're going to damage some beautiful lawn, go through another building that has an ATM in it. There's access. There's all these things that you need to consider. There's permissions from the mall, and there's various items that cause or introduce delay. So you have to cater for all these things in terms of your lead time. But if we circle back to the reticulation scenario, if the cabling is already there, if you call your provider of choice and say, I'm in building X unit 2, this is the center manager. Center manager says, right, we've got comms room here. You bring your service in here, connect to cable number 2, that goes to unit 2, boom. Your customer's connected.
I love that. And it, it reduces the amount of time. Because remember, we said we want things to reduce the amount of downtime. We want as much connectivity, availability, uptime as possible. And these are some of the things you need to be thinking about as a decision maker. And speaking of decision makers, Chris, what are some of the questions they need to be asking their providers right now? And then I want you to throw in what Paratus does and how you actually bring all of these and integrate them.
So the key thing is not to go to your provider with a problem statement. You should be talking to them from the get-go. You should
Don't
actually
wait
be going,
until there's a problem.
you should be going to them with a wish list to say, I'm starting my business today. I'm a single entrepreneur, one-man show. But in 6 months from now, I'm expecting to have 10 users, 2 branches. I'm going to need a PABX and all these kind of things. So Paratus can entertain that conversation with you. You tell us your plans, where you're starting. So from the get-go, we put in a service that's scalable. So it grows with your requirements. We know what your budget is on day one. We have an idea of what it's going to be on 6 months from now, or what you'll need versus what you can afford. And then we grow together. And at the same time, your favorite sales exec at Paratus will give you a call in 6 months' time and say, how's business going? Are you ready to open that branch yet? Do you need some extra phones? How's things going? Let's take you forward. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's so important, especially when you look at how things like renting, the equipment basically means you don't need to outright buy some of the almost always very pricey infrastructure in terms of connectivity. Having a provider like Paratus means you get to have the access and the benefit of all of these things without having to have paid.
Yeah, definitely.
the full price.
A lot of clients appreciate an OPEX model. You get the equipment from us on a rental basis. You've basically offloaded the risk and a lot of the cost onto us. We look after it. Like I said in one of the previous shows, we look after the patches, upgrades, replacements when it's end of life. So all that concern is taken off your shoulders. You focus on running your business, and we focus on keeping your connectivity up to standard.
All right, let's close off the conversation, Chris. And as we do, let's just remind the listener why connectivity matters. And when we talk about redefining how you connect, what that actually means for businesses.
So you can redefine your connectivity as you go along and change your requirements here and there and upgrade and whatever. You can also redefine your connectivity at day one. So you can come with your ideas. Like I said, where do you see yourself in 6 months' time or a year? And we start building a scalable solution for you from day one. So like I said, we don't want you to be contacting us to solve problems. We want you to contact us with a wish list and a mission statement.
Before the problems come along.
Yeah. Because once you start on the right foot and you start building as you go along, you're avoiding all those problems that you probably would have had you not, thought about your connectivity or redefined your connectivity from day one. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if you have any final words to close off our conversation, Chris.
So in one of the previous shows, we talked about the Paratus pudding. And every pudding or every good pudding, the proof is in the pudding, and every good pudding is made up of very good ingredients, and it's made up of a very talented baker. And these are all the things that Paratus can bring for you. We bring good ingredients in terms of our products and our services. And we're the good baker in terms of how we're going to look after you through your connectivity journey. So, bring your wish list and your mission statement to us, and we'll help you go.
I love that. Now I'm forever going to think of pudding when I look at you, Chris. Thank you. Thank you for putting that image in my head. But, I love the idea of quality, because this is such a big one. At the end of the day, yes, we want the cheapest thing at the cheapest price. But if you really look at it, and I've learned this the very, very hard way, cheap is expensive.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So don't be cheap with regards to your technology and your connectivity, because your business will suffer because you are trying to be cheap. And the last thing you want to do is lose all your data because you were being cheap with the backup and disaster recovery.
Yeah, no cloud backup, no recovery. And when something inevitably happens, you'll be on the back foot.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you look at things like security. Even if you know nothing, Chris has said, come with your mission statement, your vision, what you want, and something can be worked out for you. Even if you're starting from zero. In fact, especially if you're starting from zero, that's the right time to get in touch with Paratus, so that as and when you're growing your business, they are already aware and they're able to help you scale up and offer you what options are available. But yeah, I probably am, very, what can I say, going too far with it. But I really believe, when somebody says, and we had the CEO Elsley actually come here, the MD come here quite a number of times and say, hey, I'll even put my head on the blog to say the quality that I'm talking about is what will deliver. And for me, that's really beautiful to see. And I believe it is an absolute guarantee of the quality that you'll get. But this is how we're wrapping up the series of Connectivity Matters. And we've been having these discussions and basically designed for you as a decision maker, whether you are into or understand technology or not. I want to believe we've broken it down. We'd love your feedback. Get in touch. Let us know how, the conversations have gone. If we've been just speaking gibberish and you don't know what we've been saying, or if it's all made sense. If you have any further questions, you can absolutely get in touch. The email address that you can get in touch with is sales.bw@paratus.africa, info.bw@paratus.africa. And then there's a website, www.paratus.africa/Botswana. And then their phone number is so easy. They made it super easy. It's 391235. Okay, 391235. And then you can find them at Paratus Botswana on the social media platforms, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. And I know every single episode has been uploaded to Facebook, so you can check it out there. So if you type at Paratus Botswana on Facebook, you'll be able to find them. Chris, it's always a pleasure to have you in studio. Thank you so much for coming through this evening.
Yeah, Kathy, thanks for having me once again. It's a pleasure being here, and I'm going to look for another tricky song for you for next time.
I look forward to it. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Always prepared.